Hey everyone. I've got a story for you today that's going to make you question just how far some people will go when they think they have power. This is the story of when my HOA turned into a police state, and I had to fight back, big time. And when I say I fought back, I don't mean just with words. I mean I stood up in front of them, called their bluff, and forced them to back down. Let's dive right in. It all started when my wife and I bought our house a few years ago. The neighborhood was perfect. Beautiful tree-lined streets, well-kept homes, and neighbors who waved at you from their porches. It felt like the ideal place to settle down, a little suburban paradise. We paid our dues, kept the lawn trimmed, followed the rules. Life was good, or so we thought. At first, the HOA seemed like just a minor inconvenience. Sure, they sent out their monthly newsletters reminding everyone about events and basic rules, but honestly, we didn't mind. I didn't think much of it. Big mistake. 2 years passed, and then she showed up, Karen. I'm not gonna lie, that's the name I'm sticking with. Karen moved in 3 doors down, and within a month, she had herself elected to the HOA board. And you know what happened next? She managed to wiggle her way into the president's position after the old guy who'd been running things for years suddenly quit. Sounds fishy, right? Anyway, that's when the real trouble started. My first violation notice came just 6 weeks after Karen took over. Apparently, my trash cans were visible from the street on a non-collection day. Mind you, I had brought them back from the curb that morning and was just in the process of getting them out of sight when I got the notice. The time was 10 a.m., and I was literally outside dealing with them. But no, Karen had driven by, taken a photo, and issued a $50 fine. Fine, I thought. It's just $50. I'll pay it. But then the next month, another notice came. This time it was about my grass. Apparently, it was half an inch too tall. I measured it myself, and sure enough, it was well under the 3-inch limit. I sent in photos, I documented everything, and I appealed. Karen denied it. Another $50 fine. Then it kept going. My mailbox had some fading from the sun, so she sent another fine. My small decorative flag, oh you guessed it, another fine. And my house numbers were crooked. Fine. A package sat on my porch for a few hours before I got home. Yup, another fine. At this point, I started to feel like I was being targeted. And you know what? I was. Karen was on a power trip, and we were caught in the crossfire. But it got worse. About 8 months ago, I came home to find a notice on my door announcing the formation of the HOA officers. Yeah, you heard me right. She appointed a few volunteers to patrol the neighborhood like they were actual law enforcement. They were given the authority to conduct property inspections, issue violation notices on the spot, and even access common areas and transitional spaces to ensure compliance. And who were these officers? Well, one was a retired guy who had too much time on his hands, the second was someone I'd never seen before, and the third was Karen's adult son. They started patrolling the streets like they were the real police. They wore matching polo shirts with HOA officer embroidered on them, carried clipboards, and even drove around taking pictures of everyone's property. It was creepy as hell, and honestly, it felt like an invasion of privacy. A week after they started, I got my first visit. I was out front, planting some flowers in the garden, when I heard a car pull up. The retired guy stepped out with his clipboard, looking like he was ready to ruin my day. He told me I needed to move my flowers because they weren't on the approved plant list. Petunias, normal, pretty flowers from the garden center, weren't allowed in the color I had chosen. They were purple, not pink or white, and according to him, that was a violation. I had 24 hours to remove them or face a fine. I checked the rules that night. Sure enough, there was an outdated plant list from 2008. Petunias were listed, but there were no color restrictions. So, I sent an email to Karen with the screenshots, only to be told that the rules had been updated, but I should have received the new guidelines. But of course I hadn't. They were still being finalized. You can't make this stuff up. The harassment escalated. The officers showed up multiple times a week, finding violations that didn't exist or taking photos from strange angles to make things look worse. And they kept knocking on doors at the worst times. My wife started having panic attacks. We couldn't even relax on our own property anymore. It felt like living under a microscope. I reached out to a lawyer who told me that fighting an HOA could be a long, expensive process. I'd have to follow the rules to the letter and document everything just to protect myself. So that's exactly what I did. I created a binder of every rule, took daily photos, and documented every interaction I had with Karen and her officers. But things hit a breaking point 2 weeks ago. It was a Saturday, and I decided to pressure wash my back patio. The backyard was totally private, fenced off, and no one could see in. But about an hour into cleaning, I heard a banging at the side gate. I turned off the pressure washer and walked over to check. I saw someone messing with the lock, and then, bam, the gate swung open. There stood the retired HOA officer, Karen's son, and some random guy I didn't even recognize, all in their HOA officer shirts. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. "We received a complaint about excessive water usage and power equipment," the retired guy said. I was furious. "You can't just break into my yard." "We're here to investigate," he said. "This is my private property," I shot back. Karen's son stepped forward and quoted some non-existent rule about using power equipment on weekends. I wasn't having it anymore. I told them to get off my property, or I'd call the police. "Go ahead," they said. "We dare you to challenge the authority of the HOA." So I did. I dialed 911 right there in front of them. When the cops arrived, they didn't waste any time. The officers were shocked when they saw the broken lock. They quickly told the HOA officers they had no legal authority to enter my property. And that's when Karen's son made the mistake of pulling out his phone to record the police. The lead officer stepped forward and told him to put the phone down. When he didn't, he was arrested for obstructing the police. The other 2 officers were handcuffed shortly after. The whole thing was over before I knew it. The police took the HOA officers away in handcuffs, and I filed charges for criminal trespass and destruction of property. My wife and I sat in stunned silence while the neighbors gathered outside, watching the drama unfold. Karen called me later, furious about her son's arrest. But honestly, it didn't bother me. What bothered me was the months of harassment. A few weeks later, Karen's son had to pay for the damages to my gate and lock. And as for the HOA, they were completely restructured. Karen was voted out as president, and the officer program was dissolved. Several residents who had been harassed came forward and filed complaints. It turned out the HOA had been mismanaged, and most of the fines they'd issued were invalid. In the end, I got a refund check for all the fines I had paid. My neighbors got refunds too. We could finally relax in our own homes, knowing that we had taken a stand. The HOA was reformed, and life in the neighborhood went back to normal. So what's the lesson here? Don't let people with a little bit of power take advantage of you. And if you have to, stand up and fight for what's right. Because sometimes when you stand up to the bullies, justice is actually served. And now, let me ask you, have you ever had an experience like this, where a person or organization used their power to push you around? Drop a comment and let me know what happened. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about standing up to the system. See you in the next one.